Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sunday Surefire podcast. I'm your host, the Commish. Joining me today is the co-host, my guy, Ethan Weaver.
Kamish, how we doing?
Crushing it, brother. We're crushing it. We got week one behind us finally. It was nice to see some footballs flying around out there after a long off season. All preseason's done, training camp's done, week one's in the books as well. So it was good. It was good to see that there. Did you enjoy week one?
I enjoyed week one very much. I was actually at Gillette in the rain, seeing the Patriots stink it up. So that was a lot of fun. But no, week one's always crazy. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. We've been waiting for this for so long. I mean, we're high on certain players, low on certain players, and we finally get some of the answers right. Obviously, it's a long season; we can't overreact. But I'm going to tell you this: in week one, I don't think anybody had the top three receivers: Keon Coleman, Zay Flowers, and Quentin Johnston. So it's wild.
There was a parlay to be won there. That's for damn sure if you locked in those odds on your bet slips. But yeah, it was a fun betting weekend for me too. Can't always say that in the betting industry, but it was good to have a good result there. And fantasy was a mixed bag, as it always is when you play in as many leagues as we do. But in any event, we're really happy to have fantasy back, and we're just excited that the NFL season's finally here for sure. Tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about, and it's funny because we spent all this time in the offseason talking about players that we like, and we say, hey, it's a long season, this guy's going to be good, that guy's going to be great. And then week one happens, and then instantly people kind of have those knee-jerk reactions to things. So tonight, we're kind of here to parse through some of that and give people some advice on whether they should be panicking on a certain player or exercising patience. So pretty straightforward exercise if you just want to chill on a guy and give him another week or two to see how it pans out, great. Or if you're just hitting that panic button right out of the gate in week one. So fun episode. We've done it in years past. Looking forward to running this one down. But let's get it started. We're going to get started with a rookie, a newcomer who was just played his first NFL game. Unfortunately, he didn't play as much as we would have wanted him to, which is why he finds himself on a panic or patience episode. But Ethan, give me your take on Caleb Johnson. Are you being patient, or are you hitting that panic button?
I mean, if you had return yards, if you receive points for return yards in your fantasy leagues, Caleb Johnson did okay with 123. But other than that, it was a rough outing. Obviously, one carry, minus 2 yards. And I have Caleb Johnson in a few of my redraft leagues, obviously in dynasties. So I think just in a redraft perspective, it's worrisome that he's getting off to such a slow start, because obviously we need to win early in redraft. We want to make the playoffs. Sometimes you don't have 5, 6, 7 weeks to wait for a running back to come along. But I mean, if I had to answer yes or no, whether I'm panicking or not, my answer is no. A lot of rookie running backs didn't necessarily have huge volumes in week one. Obviously, I mean, guys like Genty and whatnot, he got the full workload, 19 carries. But if you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers running back breakdown in terms of snaps, I mean, Jaylen Warren, he just got the contract extension. You would have thought if somebody told me Caleb Johnson was going to have one carry on offense, I would think Jaylen Warren would have taken the bulk of carries. But no, Kenneth Gainwell actually outsnapped him 30 snaps to 25 snaps for Jaylen Warren. Warren had 11 carries, 27 yards, 3.4 yards a carry, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 22 yards, while Kenneth Gainwell had 7 carries, 19 yards, 2.7 yards per carry. Very efficient for Kenneth Gainwell. And then he had 4 targets, 3 receptions for 4 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, I mean, we know what he is. I think it's a matter of time before he gets relegated back to a very, very minimal role, and Caleb Johnson finds his way into meaningful touches. I don't know. Maybe he's having trouble with blitz pickup or pass protection. Maybe he's not 100% comfortable with the playbook. Who knows what the story is? Maybe it's just, hey, the veterans get the nod. As I said, other players like Cam Scadaboo, 12% snap share in his opening weekend, and he had 2 carries for -3 yards. I mean, Henderson for the Patriots only played 35% of snaps. So these rookies are going to take time. I'm going to exercise patience. He's not a guy I'm panic selling or dropping by any means in redraft. I think you need to exercise patience. Caleb Johnson could be a league winner down the stretch.
totally agree on that. I have him as it's someone to exercise patience on as well. I actually wrote down the words extreme patience on Caleb Johnson, and I think there really are various levels to that. The patience you should have. He's not a guy I'm expecting a big week 2 out of for the reasons you mentioned. Like Gainwell was heavily involved, Warren was heavily involved. I don't think overnight, with the span of 7 days, Pittsburgh's going to look at their approach and say, yeah, now Caleb Johnson's going to be the bell cow. So when I say extreme patience, it's going to be, like Ethan said, down the stretch of the season, as the year goes on, he gets more and more work, and then finally something goes off in Arthur Smith's small fantasy brain and says, "Oh, that's the best running back to carry the load for this team," because he is. I firmly believe that. Like you said, we know what Kenneth Gainwell is. Jalen Warren's a nice, ideally a passing down back who can mix in a little bit on first and second down as well. I think the best version of this Steelers offense is Caleb Johnson being the hammer on early downs and at the goal line, with Warren giving him a spell in those areas, and then also being the passing down back when they need him to be for an older Aaron Rodgers. That's where I sit on the Steelers offense, and so for that reason, I'm exercising patience as well. But it's got to be an abundance of patience with Johnson for sure. This next guy was drafted a little bit higher. He was going kind of like 3rd, 4th round borderline. That's Kenneth Walker. So the exercise is, panic or patience. And with him, I'm going to be patient as well with him. And I know the week 1 touch distribution was something that we hadn't seen in Seattle prior to week 1. Historically speaking, when Walker's been healthy, he's been the guy who's dominated touches in this backfield. And that just wasn't the case on Sunday. Well, we saw Walker get 13 touches to Charbonnet's 12. We saw Charbonnet do a lot more at those touches, including at scoring, finding the end zone. Walker was abysmal. It was 10 carries for 20 yards. So not good at all from an efficiency standpoint. The thing with Walker is we know what he is, and he's a home run waiting to happen up there. So I do think those big plays are coming. What I do think from this usage, though, is that I think people that were projecting him to be like a dark horse, to be a top 5 running back in terms of points scored this season, that's going to be out the window if this really is going to be a 50-50 split or something close to it. So I see him more as a high-end RB2 the rest of the way, which is okay. If you took him in the 3rd, 4th round, you can get by with that if he is able to produce those numbers. This is not a Breece Hall situation to me from last season where you took him in the 1st round, the top six or so picks of your drafts, and then he only produces as an RB2. Like, that's a killer. You need your 1st-round picks to fire off, whereas your 3rd, 4th round guys, you can get viable production out of them going forward. You're going to be okay, but I think his upside is going to be capped by Charbonnet this year. But I am exercising patience because you can use him as an RB2 even in redraft formats.
I agree with you, but I would be a little panicked if I'm a manager who expected a top 5 running back in 2025. I'm not panicked personally because I have 0.0% shares of Kenneth Walker because I was concerned with Zach Charbonnet. I've been a Zach Charbonnet believer for a while now, and I just didn't understand all the hype that Kenneth Walker was getting. I understand when he was healthy, he was the workhorse. He was the guy last year. But we've seen it over and over. Kenneth Walker, when he gets the majority of touches, he gets hurt. And Charbonnet, he's been getting better and better as an NFL running back, which is why I don't have any shares of Kenneth Walker because I believed in the talent that is Zach Charbonnet. And as you alluded to, he was way more efficient with his touches. You're talking about rushing success rate. Charbonnet was 75% to Walker's 30%. Adjusted yards after contact per rush, 2.5 for Charbonnet, 1.7 for Walker. And then forced missed tackle rate, 16.7% for Charbonnet, 0% for Walker. This is a tough day for Kenneth Walker. As you said, 2 yards per carry for Walker. Charbonnet also got the red zone goal line touch for the touchdown. Zach Charbonnet also had an insane, very, very nice run in there too, where he was making people miss and looked very explosive. I just think this is going to be more of a 50-50 split. And honestly, in a real football perspective, I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. Keep Kenneth Walker healthy. I don't think Seattle's going very far this year, but if you have 2 capable backs, why run one on the ground? Obviously, as fantasy managers, that's the last thing we want to hear. And for anybody who drafted Kenneth Walker in the 3rd round expecting a top 10 back, I don't think you're going to get that this year. So in that regard, I am panicking because his upside is cut in half. Especially if Zach Charbonnet starts playing a consistently higher percentage of snaps, he maybe he is the goal line guy. Who knows? I mean, it's only week 1. We don't want to overreact too much, but definitely not what you expected or wanted to see from Kenneth Walker in week 1.
Yeah, I think it's a committee league now, like you said on this
Agreed.
show over and over again. And that's probably what we're slated for. It's probably the best thing for the Seattle offense, especially with Sam Darnold playing quarterback. They lean run heavy at times with Geno Smith. I think it's going to be more of the same with Darnold. I don't see that changing. So, yeah, I would be panicking a little bit too even if I got him in the 4th round, if I went like receiver, tight end, or receiver, quarterback, and he was my RB1, I'd be a little panicked too. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, I still think he slots in as an RB2, and I think you're going to be okay on that front. Let's go to another RB. This is a guy I know we both have kind of been lockstep on for most of his career. We've kind of been wrong about him at some points as well up to this point, but I think we're going to probably be on the same page here with Isaiah Pacheco. But why don't you hit the people with it? Are you being patient or are you panicking on Pacheco?
I'm full-fledged panic mode on Pacheco. I just don't see the upside when starting Pacheco. I mean, I get it. They were down versus the Chargers for most of that game. So it was a very, very pass-heavy script. But, I mean, if the Kansas City Chiefs defense does take a step back and they're in more shootouts, I mean, that's what you're going to see. And Pacheco had 5 carries. And if you look at the breakdown between Kareem Hunt and Pacheco, I mean, Pacheco played 31 snaps to Kareem Hunt's 23 snaps. And Brashard Smith was there on 14% of the snaps as well. And I'm sure that's going to increase in time. And it's Pacheco, he's just a touchdown dependent running back. And I just don't think he's going to produce the way people wanted him to produce in a what we thought was going to be a top offense. I mean, obviously the Worthy injury, I mean, hurt them quite a bit. I know he was a huge part of their game plan. It probably threw them off a little bit, but there was actually a pretty cool stat by Matt Harmon. Since week 1 of last year, the Chiefs have had 411 rushing attempts. Of those 411 attempts, 23 gained 10-plus yards, only 4 15-plus yards, and 2 20-plus. Granted, I know Pacheco was hurt last year. He got hurt, obviously, in the middle of the year there. When he came back, he wasn't full strength. But that just shows you that they don't really have an explosive rushing attack, and they do need to rely on volume and touchdowns. And I don't think you're going to get that from Pacheco at all this year, especially when you start to see a 3-man committee. I mean, if Pacheco is your RB2, I'd be very, very, very worried. You can get, if he's your RB3, I mean, you just need to assume that it's a very, very low floor for Pacheco and a low ceiling as well. So just not a guy that's probably going to help you win your fantasy league.
Unlikely. I mean, yeah, if they're up on teams and they're running, sure. Like if he falls in the end zone, yeah, but I think that's what he is now too. So I'm panicking as well. I think he's touchdown dependent from week to week, and without much pass game utility, I'm panicking on too. Like I don't see much of an outcome here unless the Kansas City defense is great again, and that game was an aberration, which I'm not sure it is. I know the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been the better side of that ball for the last 2 years in Kansas City. No one will say that because of the great, powerful, mighty Patrick Mahomes, but I'll say it. Like if you watch them play defense, they've been awesome. Where they've kind of struggled at times on offense, and they were great in points allowed last season. So I'm panicking on Pacheco too for that same reason. This next player though, this is another high profile guy, at least someone that I'll say this about this player. He's a guy that sounds really great to have on your team. And you say, yeah, why don't I never have shares of this guy? I'm going to draft him this year, or in Dynasty, I'm going to trade for this guy and put him on my team. He's still relatively young, and I should get some years out of him. That's Devonta Smith. And I'm going to go ahead and panic on Devonta Smith. And then when I say panic, what I mean is I never really wanted to draft a guy where he was going in drafts in the first place. There's other players I was more invested in at that ADP. But most of this might not even be his fault, some of it. I think he just plays on a good team that loves to run the ball. They've been in the top 5 in rush attempts each of the last 2 years. And they're going to be again this year. Obviously, they have Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts doing their thing. Both of those guys are threats inside the red zone. And, I think he's going to slot in behind A.J. Brown in most weeks when it comes to volume. I know that didn't happen in week 1. But if you stack it up, A.J. Brown versus Devonta Smith, right now, I mean, A.J. Brown's the better player. So, they have a lot going on outside of Smith, and it leads to a lot of boomer bust type weeks from Smith. So I kind of look at him similarly, where if he's not going to guy who's going to rack up a ton of receptions in all likelihood. So he's kind of touchdown dependent as well. So that's kind of where I'm at on Smith. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the panic button, but it's more of a gentle panic because I didn't want him in the first place.
Agree. I have 0 shares of Smith in every single one of my leagues, and it's for the points you laid out. This offense is one of the more efficient offenses in the league. They're one of the most heavy rushing attacks in the league. They don't need to pass the ball at a high clip. I mean, Hurts only attempted 23 pass attempts, and they controlled the game the entire time against Dallas. They ran the ball. They were efficient rushing the ball, and then Goddard was Hurts' favorite target in week 1. So the reason why I'm panicking is because Smith is going to be such a volatile option week to week. He doesn't have a safe floor week to week. I mean, you're going to have these dud games, I think, more often than not. I would compare the Eagles offense. It's very similar to what we see with the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are crazy efficient rushing the ball. Lamar Jackson doesn't need to throw the ball as much, but they're just so efficient when they do throw the ball. And obviously, I mean, Zay Flowers had an awesome week in week 1 for the Baltimore Ravens, but more so historically. I mean, Lamar Jackson doesn't have to drop back and chuck it 40 times. But Jalen Hurts he runs the offense perfectly for the talent that they have in the team, and they're a run first team. So I'm very panicked on the pass catchers in Philadelphia because it's going to be a Brown week or a Smith week, or maybe it's a Goddard week, but it's going to be one of the bunch. I don't think there's going to be too many weeks where Hurts is just slinging the rock all over the joint, and you see AJ Brown and Devonta Smith both as top 24 receivers.
Yeah, I'd rather let someone else play that game of which week's it going to be rather than I will. So he's not a guy that I have any shares of, and he's not a guy that I bet on with any regularity. So we are in lockstep on that one, kind of like I thought I would be. Glad we would be on that one. Let's go to the quarterback position now. We're going to mix in a quarterback and then a tight end here. So we're obviously going with guys coming off top performances. Really good last year was Jared Goff. So where are you at on him? Panic or patience?
I'm going to be patient on Jared Goff. All the pieces are still there. I'm going to give him a pass in week 1. It's a new offense. I mean, Ben Johnson's gone, but Jared Goff was still 31 of 39, which isn't awful by any means. 255 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But obviously that offense was kind of out of sorts. Goff was sacked 4 times. Obviously that Packers defense is improved. It's a divisional game. They know each other very well. I think it's going to take some time for the Lions to adjust and get comfortable with their new OC there. So I'm going to exercise patience. I just think there's just too much talent for Jared Goff not to return value, I think, this year. So I'm going to be patient.
I'm with you too. I mean, it was a really tough week in Green Bay, tough divisional game. They're navigating the loss of both coordinators, which is tough, and they're also dealing with some new offensive linemen. They had their all-pro center, Frank Ragnow, retire in the summer. So they didn't, after the draft and after free agency, so they didn't really have the opportunity to fully address that. So they're working in some new pieces on the field as well. But like you said, they have a lot of weapons on this team. And I think Goff's, at this point, he's a veteran quarterback. He's been in the league. I think this is his 10th year, if I'm not mistaken. So been around the block. You've seen it. But I do think he is going to be more matchup dependent this season than he has in the past. Because we know with him, he doesn't offer a ton with his legs in terms of rushing. So ideally, he's a guy you're going to start in games that figure to be shootouts. Games with the high over-unders are good places for him to target. Indoor games, they play in a dome. And other dome games as well would be good spots for him. So that's where I'm kind of penciling him in. He's closer to a streamer for me, but I kind of had him pegged there anyway, to be honest with you, going into the year. So I'm not panicking on him. I'm just willing to be patient with Goff and play him in those hopefully high-scoring games. And there's one more guy to get to here, like I said, tight end. We wanted to make sure we hit on that position. Interesting week at tight end. Some of the top guys played well, some didn't, but we're going to go to a guy who we had sort of as kind of like down the list a little, but a guy who we said if you waited on tight end, we were going to be fine with them in that spot. That's Evan Ingram. And I was a little surprised. I'm pressing the panic button ever so slightly. I'm not slamming it full board, but it's no fun if I say, oh, I can see both sides of it. So I am going to say panic, but not the full pound panic like we're doing with Pacheco. This is going to be with Ingram. he was a guy I was really high on coming into the season. I still think there could be a path for him to produce, but my fear is that he kind of just gets lumped in with the secondary receivers on this team. Guys like Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, maybe Pat Bryant as well as the season goes on. Maybe he gets more involved than he was in week 1 down the stretch. And we kind of saw this from this offense a season ago. In the passing game, it was the Cortland Sutton show, and then the other guys sort of mixed in, made plays here and there. They relied on the run game when they could, but they also think they have 2 running backs they feel good about now, and a veteran in Dobbins and a rookie in Harvey, who we know is going to get more involved down the stretch, ideally in the passing game too. So Bo Nix is a good, solid quarterback. I don't think he's the type of guy who's going to spread the ball around to 3 or 4 players and make 3 pass catchers relevant in this offense. So I do still think there are better days ahead for Ingram, but when you kind of factor in the spread of those other guys in the mix, I don't love it. And that's before we even talk about the calf injury that he's dealing with coming out of just week 1. So for a guy we saw deal with injuries last year, derail this season, now on the wrong side of 30, it's kind of just a lot of little things adding up to me where I do want to just ever so slightly tap that panic button. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think the calf injury is very worrisome for a guy that's 31 years old. I did see that he was back at practice in a limited fashion. So that, to me, that would tell me it's not a crazy bad calf strain here. So maybe he'll be back out there. But what was a little alarming for me in week 1 was I thought he was going to be the clear, hands down number 2 in this offense. I thought it was going to be the Sutton, Ingram show, and everybody else was going to be a distant 3rd, 4th, 5th. And Troy Franklin ended up being the number 2 option in week 1. And Ingram, I mean, he only had 3 receptions for 31 yards and 4 targets. And overall, he played 34% of the snaps, but he missed basically the entire 4th quarter. So if you extrapolate the 4th quarter snaps and you remove those, which was 25 offensive snaps, he essentially played 51% of the snaps for the first 3 quarters, which I was hoping to see a much more higher snap percentage. I mean, Evan Ingram, he's supposed to be like the Joker role. He's supposed to be, Sean Payton's chess piece to be able to kind of put in a bunch of different spots and be a mismatch against opposing defenses. And unfortunately, we didn't really see that in week 1. Evan Ingram, I know we were both very high on him. He's a guy that I wanted to target late in my drafts to punt on tight end a little bit anyways. But, I mean, tight end was kind of a tough outing. I mean, just look across the board. Ingram kind of let us down. T.J. Hawkinson let us down. Look at why am I blanking on his name? The Ravens starting tight end there. Mark Andrews. Yeah, geez. But Mark Andrews, I mean, I think he had like a half a point. I think it did he even have a catch? I think 1 catch. It was just terrible. And then Kelsey, I mean, he's in that kind of panic territory too, where it's like you have 2 grabs and you get that long touchdown when Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 39 times with Xavier Worthy out. It's like if you can't earn a higher target share with Worthy out in a pass-heavy game script, I mean, what do we expect long term? So a couple bonus tight ends to start panicking about, but
I can see that.
Yeah, kind of a rough weeks in the tight end landscape for a few guys that people were drafting relatively early.
Yeah, I think with Kelsey, he's one of those guys where if he was any other tight end, you'd be like, oh yeah, he cut the long touchdown mid his day, but I'm not thinking too much into that. But he's not. He's Travis Kelsey, so he's a high profile name. The only prayer with Kelsey now is you figure with Worthy out for a bit, and then Rashee Rice still suspended, that he does factor into the game plan. Now that they know that going into the game going forward, but you never know too. He's 35 years old, so the end could be coming for him as well, right before our eyes. But we'll see. So that was a nice little bonus that we tossed in there, talking Travis Swift. That would make Aaron happy. Talking about a couple Chiefs guys tonight, and naturally, us Patriots fans are panicking on both of them. Makes sense. But that's what we have for you today, folks. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're checking us out on all of our social media channels. Make sure you're hitting that like button, hitting that follow button. And until next time, folks, peace.